Ladies and gentlemen, um, today is a lot of fun. Today we're going to get into one of my favorite topics, which is health, wellness. There's a reason why I started this podcast in the first place, and it was mainly for that purpose, is to hopefully consistently give you value to make everyone better mentally, physically, and overall just have some laughs in the process. But today I wanted to bring aboard someone that I've been following for quite some time, and this is the first time she's been on the podcast, but it's a lot of fun. Kayla Wall. I'll make sure I leave her links in the description on YouTube as well as the podcast channel you're listening to. So make sure you check her out on Instagram. But she's the founder of Orlando Farm Rescue, and she's also a big proponent of veganism, but only for the past couple of years. So it was kind of interesting to talk to her about why she started eating more plant-based, and she has tons of experience in the veterinarian industry, and she went to school and she's done some volunteer work overseas. So it was a really cool conversation, just kind of chatting with her a little bit about her background and her passion for helping animals, and overall it was a really good conversation. So I think you'll get a kick out of it. Before we get into that, though, I do want to mention our couple sponsors here. We got Rainforest Bowls, folks. So Rainforest Bowls, you hear me talk about literally all the time, especially if you follow me on Instagram. I love Rainforest Bowls. I'm super proud and happy to announce they actually came out with a brand new line of products. They do Rainforest Bowls, which you guys know. We talk about that. Also utensils and bamboo straws. But now they have like plates, wine glasses, coffee mugs. And I know that sounds kind of wild, but it's really cool what they've been able to do to these products to make them look like kitchenware. And they're eco-friendly because they're made from wood cutoffs and leftover bamboo and leftover coconut shells that are used from coconut trees in the rainforest. So a lot of times companies cut these coconut shells down to take out the coconut. What Rainforest Bowls does is they actually take the wood cutoffs and the coconut shells, and instead of those getting wasted like they normally would, they repurpose them into these utensils, and it's for our benefit. They make these really cool looking bowls and bamboo utensils that we can use on our everyday products, whether it's a smoothie bowl or cereal, or literally just using the bamboo straw, throw it in a cup, and you can take that thing anywhere. So I recommend you check out rainforestbowls.com. You can actually use the code THEBERARDO. You're going to get 20% off your entire order. And again, they just launched some brand new kitchenware. I think you're going to get a kick out of it. Check out Rainforest Bowls, and you're going to get a discount just for listening to this podcast if you use the code THEBERARDO at checkout. And next up, I do want to thank our friends over at Superfat. So Superfat is the nut butter you guys should be intaking. Peanut butter is so 10 years ago. Superfat has tons of great nut butters. They just came out with keto cookie bites as well, which are my guilty pleasure. Keto cookie bites are great because they have less than 3 grams of sugar per bag. Yes, so that way you can eat that entire thing and not feel guilty at all about it. They're keto friendly. Their nut butters are great because they're vegan, paleo, and they're kosher friendly as well. Not to mention gluten free for all you anti-gluten folks out there. But nut butters are great because they have some really good fats that our body needs. Very similar to like you would hear about intaking an avocado for good fats. Well, same thing with nut butters. But nut butters have to have the correct, nuts in there. You just can't have peanuts. Peanuts have fat. You look at the back of that, and those aren't good fats, folks, by the way. Peanuts are high in protein, but not so good in the fats. You look at like almonds, you look at macadamia nuts, you look at these type of nuts. These actually have good fats for you that your body needs and craves. So I do recommend you check out superfat.com. If you want a discount, you can use the code Berardo10. If you use that at checkout, you're going to get a big discount on your entire order. So don't forget to do that at superfat.com. Again, thank you, Superfat. Thank you, Rainforest Bowls. We appreciate you guys helping out the podcast. Without further ado, we do want to get into today's episode. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I think you guys are going to love this episode, even if you don't care about veganism or health or wellness. Overall, it's just a fun conversation. Everyone, please help me welcome Kayla Wall.
It's just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
We're going to put you right in this box. Check this out.
Oh, well, love it.
How cool is that? And I can even center you too. So this thing's called Ecamm Live. And it's only for Mac. So I don't know if you have a Mac or Windows, but I am obsessed with this thing. It's a big producer program, and it's pretty cheap. It's like $200 for the year or something like that. So,
oh wow,
I'm obsessed with it.
Ecamm, I like it.
Ecamm. So hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I had to nerd out there for a sec. So naturally, we're gonna record. We're gonna get into it. I record my pre-rolls and post-rolls, the introduction beforehand. Okay. So thanks for the time. This is cool.
Yeah. This is good for me too. Unfortunately, the dogs are barking, so if you hear them, I apologize.
No, that's awesome because it kind of ties into, veganism, animal rescue. Like, it's if you didn't have animal sounds in the background, I'd be very disappointed actually.
Oh, okay, good. Well, so I don't want to disappoint.
So this is cool. So first, kind of tell me a little bit about, because by the way, I don't know if you listen to all my podcasts or clips of them, but I don't do a lot of vegan stuff. I try to do, maybe like one episode a month, just because I really believe in just the culture the last few years and things like that. So it's when I see you post and I see your page and, Instagram, Facebook, and of course the Orlando Farm Rescue, it always kind of intrigues me a little bit about, what you do, how you got into it, and pretend kind of as if, viewers won't know who you are. Kind of give us a little bit of cliff notes on, what you do, what your background is, and all that jazz.
Cool. And for the podcast, like, what do you want
this to be about?
You just want, veganism or? Yeah,
really. I mean, anything you want. For me, I don't like to. I usually figure out titles after I listen to the episode, and all that. So we could talk about Orlando Farm Rescue. We could talk about veganism. We could talk about healthy living. We could just kind of shoot the shit about Orlando. It's really whatever you want. I'm down.
Okay. Awesome.
Cool. I hate picking titles beforehand. It's kind of this weird thing I've been doing last like 50 episodes because I'm only on like 80 something episodes. But there's a weird thing where I like to have like a conversation, if it's 10 minutes, if it's an hour, whatever. I even had one that I just posted with a buddy that now works at NASA, and I went to high school with her, and we haven't talked physically, like face to face, like we've messaged and DM'd and all that social media crap, but we haven't actually talked in 10 years. I haven't seen her face in 10 years.
Wow.
So we talked for like an hour and a half the other day, and I just, geeked out about NASA and space and stuff. And then at the end of it, I was just like, I think we're just going to make this podcast about space. So I just called it something space related.
That's cool.
So
that's really cool.
That's kind of how I like to do my podcast.
Okay. I love it.
With no thought behind it whatsoever. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Just keeping it real.
I love it. Yeah. Love it.
But veganism is something I'm always interested in. And I know you guys are big proponents of that. So I'd love to kind of dip into that. But really, being healthy and that lifestyle is intriguing to me. But I'm not I don't preach about it because I don't know enough about it. I'm just kind of in this weird like 2-year stage where I had a chronic illness, and I still have a chronic illness, but it's gone down drastically since I turned to veganism and a plant-based diet. So that kind of interests me a little bit, but I just don't. I feel like it'll be hypocritical of me to preach about it a lot. So if you know anything that could help me in particular, I'd love to talk about that too.
Yeah. I'm definitely not a preachy vegan. I have my own way about it, but yeah, I mean, I'll definitely share my story and what my thoughts are on it.
Yeah. So let's start with your background. So where are you from? What you've been up to? All that jazz.
Yeah. So are we like recording now?
Oh, we've been going for like 2 hours.
Oh shoot. So my background is I started off when I was 15 working at a vet clinic. That was one of my first jobs, bathing dogs. It was kind of crazy because that was, I was so young, and getting a job at the vet office was so cool. So I started off in the grooming department, and I loved it. I remember when I first walked in, and being surrounded by all the cages with all the dogs. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I've made it. This is the perfect job ever. I love it.
That's awesome.
And so I did that for a summer. And a few months after that, they were like, hey, we want you to start becoming a receptionist at the vet clinic. And I was like, sign me up. Like, let's do this. Now, being just under 16, all the other receptionists and techs were like, who's this little girl working at the vet clinic? You know,
Right.
there was so much I didn't know, and I was just thrown into it. And they gave me like books to study, but I didn't even know how to say the names of medications I was, helping send home.
Right.
But I learned, I loved talking with people. And so it was so fun for me to see the animals and give them their treatment, give them their treatment plan, check them out, talk to them on the phone.
And I think that, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's like
Yeah.
everyone's like dream gig. Like when I was that age too, maybe it's just us, but when I was that age, I always thought it would be the perfect job if you could just hang out, talk to people, and then just be with animals all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
cool, right?
So at this point, you're only what, 16 still, 17?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
16. Yeah.
The dream.
It was so cool. And it was a big practice. So there was 7 veterinarians, I don't know, 20 technicians, and we had always a staff of 4 receptionists. So it was pretty big practice. So
And this is out of Orlando or?
no, this
So-
is actually in Michigan. So that's where I was
Ooh.
from. Yeah.
Ooh, Michigan, eh?
Yeah. Yep.
That's Canadian. I don't know why I
little
went.
Canadian, but
It's kind of close.
yeah, a little close.
Very cool.
I
Some
guess
Michigan,
I have
love
a
it.
Michigan accent. I don't know, but
Yeah, well, my mother's actually from Flint originally.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, she lost her accent a while ago, but I always, for some reason, always go back to the Canadian thing. Every time she talks, I just make fun of it. I don't know why. But yeah, your accent's good. You don't have.
Okay, good.
So when you get down, did you work there for a while in Michigan, and then you came down to
Yeah.
Florida? Or?
Yeah, I was there for a while, and so yeah, I kind of I was there till I was 23. So I worked in the veterinary field after that. After being a receptionist for 6 months, they started training me as a technician, which was even cooler because I got to do everything. And yeah, so I kind of worked my way up to anesthesia, and then I went to school. I became a licensed vet tech, so it's like a nurse for animals. And
Awesome.
yeah, so I got into specialty medicine, ER, and surgery, like extreme like surgeries.
Wow.
So like, you would send if you had a dog and you would send them to a specialist. That's what I was doing. So
Way too cool.
yeah, so it was really fun. And then I did not like the cold. And so I moved down here and haven't looked back.
Smart. Yeah, it's a good call. That's a very good call.
Yeah.
And now you're in Orlando?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I lived there for, I pretty much grew up there, but I lived there for a large part of my childhood life. And then I moved back and forth through different states and helped some buddies open some businesses across the country and stuff. But I always ended up in Orlando. My father actually still lives in Orlando, so we go there.
Oh.
Yeah, and my wife's family is also there. So we go there occasionally. Definitely not so much right now because of COVID and everything. But yeah, it's we're happy we're not there anymore, but it's fun to visit now.
Yeah. And congrats on your new house. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, we're about a month in now. It's finally feeling like home. The craziness is done. We're actually getting our last furniture delivery today, matter of fact. So yeah, that's the last piece of furniture, and then we're broke. So, but it's worth it though, because it's just it's a cool little town. Oh, sorry, rookie move. I need to mute my Apple Watch here. That was so bougie of me to say that as we were recording. Well, I just my Apple Watch. No, but we're so happy because we're kind of like out of a big city, out of Orlando and stuff. And but we still kind of have that community feel, because I don't know if you have that in Orlando, but when we were in Orlando, it was like, it's almost like everyone's been there for the past 10 years plus. So you always go to the same spots and you always go to the same bars. And for us, it was so trivial every single night and every single weekend if we went out. So here it's kind of like a new experience, but we're starting to feel a little more like earthy community as opposed to like the city and the skyscrapers and stuff. So it's kind of cool to be out here. It's Apollo Beach, which is about 30 minutes west of Tampa, or east of Tampa.
Wow,
So,
very cool.
yeah, we love it. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. What part of Orlando are you out of?
I'm in Avalon. It's East Orlando.
Oh yeah. My dad has a place in Waterford Lakes. That's where
Oh,
I went to high school. Well, I went to high school at University High School.
oh.
And then I had buddies right when, because this is like 01, 02. So Timber Creek opened up, which is right there. And
Yeah.
the university was like the school, because it was one of the biggest and most popular, got split in half. So our like juniors or sophomores had to move if they lived in Waterford Lakes or Avalon, and they had to move to Timber Creek. And I was like right on that little cusp. So literally I went to University High School for senior year, and then I had buddies that were like 2 blocks away that went to Timber Creek. It was very strange.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was very
crazy.
weird. And that was like the first year they opened up too. That year, I think it was maybe 2000 or 9. I don't know what year it was, but we love it out there. Avalon's so cool. It's like its own little Pleasantville city.
I know, right? So
Yeah, it's
true.
fun.
What
Yeah.
year did you graduate?
03? I should know that faster. Yeah, 03. Feels like so long ago. I mean, it was, but it's weird. It was either 02 or 03. No, it was 03. It was 03 for sure. Yeah.
It's awesome. I'm
Yeah,
09,
university.
so.
09. Hey, represent the 2000s. You're still there with
Right.
us.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. 2010, you'd be weird, but
Yeah.
you're in 09, so you're in the game. So you're in Orlando. So tell me a little bit about, because I follow Orlando Farm Rescue, and also I just found on your Instagram My Vegan Dreams. Is that a blog? Are you participating in that? Is it
Yeah.
your blog, or is that?
Yeah, no, it's a friend of mine's blog. I just help
cool.
her and contribute, and yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
it's really cool. It was actually one of the things that helped me go vegan back when I was trying to, just being immersed in a community that shares stuff that makes you think
Sure.
a little bit differently. So yeah, so it was like a huge honor when they reached out to me to help. I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, that's great. I have a lot of pages that I follow, but your friend, what's her name that runs Vegan Dreams? We'll give her a little shout out.
Megan. Yeah, Megan.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
think it's my_vegan_dreams. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Stalker alert, Tony. So no, I've always been kind of very curious about those different pages and stuff, because I'm always looking for new ways. A lot of people don't know that eating vegan now doesn't have to be going and buying Beyond Meat or Impossible Foods. As good as those, I like to call those transitional foods, where, it helps you kind of transition into it. But, if you really want to live like a plant-based and a healthy lifestyle, processed foods is not the way to go. And unfortunately, anything that's in the freezer or even on a shelf, if it's not fresh produce, it has to be on that shelf for X amount of time to sustain the life. So there's going to be artificial ingredients and processed things to keep it on the shelf longer. So what is your, as a vegan? Well, first let's talk about how long have you been a vegan for, out of curiosity?
Yeah. 3.5 years. Yeah.
Hey,
Wow.
you beat me. Well done.
How long have you been?
Just 2 years. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good amount.
yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I would say longer, but 4 years ago is really where I started trying. But then, I would have, and I still cheat. I'll have an egg or two if the wife makes scrambled eggs, because I'll have tofu instead of eggs. But sometimes it's 2 skillets. Do I really want to waste my morning with 1 tofu, 1 egg? I'll just do the egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, 2 years hardcore where I haven't really, I haven't had red meat in probably 4 years. But
Wow.
I had sushi the other night, and I had a couple bites of eel. So occasionally I'll
Yeah.
cheat. So technically, I guess I'm restarting every 2 weeks, but
No,
know.
I think I think it's cool. I think that everyone, I know the vegan community can be like all or nothing, and I personally don't feel that way. I think any little action helps. Like even just giving up like red meat or just not doing pork or not doing beef makes a huge difference. So I think that's
For
great.
sure. And what was the? I mean, aside from your friend's blog, I mean, what was the one thing that made you open up and say, I should try this thing out? Was it more like
Yeah.
a climate thing? Was it a health thing? Like what?
Yeah, it was so interesting because so before, back when I was being a vet tech, back in my teens, I was on and off vegetarian. When I moved out and was like in college, and I decided to not do that
Yeah.
just
Right.
because I was like so broke.
Sure.
But then I started. I went to Africa actually. I did my internship for school in Africa where I worked with for vet monkeys and did a lot of wildlife
Oh, wicked.
conservation work. Yeah, so like rhino, elephants, and all of it. So conservation and the environment has always been super important to me, as well as just animals, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't even think about going vegan. I thought, like, I met some people who were vegan and they really turned me off to it. I was like, oh, they're angry or like they're just kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I, it was funny. We were out for drinks with a buddy of mine who's super fit, CrossFit, very successful, in his like late 40s. And he just had his life together. And we were out drinking beers and he was like, oh, yeah, I'll have a salad. And we're like, oh, really, Matt? Like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm vegan. I'm like, you're vegan? Like, what? You're super cool.
Yeah. You're not the traditional vegan. You don't have beanies and weird tattoos. Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're cool. So he's like, yeah, watch the movie What the Hell and uh, try incorporating a vegan meal into your diet. So that's what I did. And after
And
watching What the Hell,
and by the
like,
way, sorry, side note, because I know you're
yeah,
gonna. So what the health? Shout out, because that helped turn me on too. Anybody
really?
listening, if they have not seen that, I think it's on Netflix and Amazon. I know it's on one of those, but
Yeah.
that's a great doc for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, go ahead. So what the
Yeah,
health?
no. Yeah, so I watched that and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't know what was going on." Like I was just blind to it. It's easy not to see it
Yeah.
and not to see what goes on behind the curtain of like um factory farming, but also the health stuff. I was like, "Oh, that's why I shouldn't consume dairy because of health." And for me, honestly, health was the very last thing. It was like
Sure.
animals, environment, and health, which I know for a lot of people it's the exact opposite. But
Well, being a
um,
vet too, I mean, I'm sure you always had animals first anyway, right? Like in the back of your head, you're always thinking,
exactly.
yeah, animals. And then, next thing you're like, oh, wait a minute. Now my health. Oh, yeah. See, for most people, it should be
Yeah,
the opposite. They should think about their health first, but most people don't even think about health
right.
or animals. So
Yeah.
you're
Just
on the
like
right track.
yeah,
Yeah.
but now like talking about the plant-based stuff, I well, initially when I first went vegan, I threw away everything in my house. I was like, everything must go. And it I was only vegan for like 4 days before I was like eating meat, just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I need a burger. And then so it took me, like you, it took me years to where I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop eating beef. I'm gonna stop eating pork, and then slowly went pescatarian, slowly, and then one day I'm gonna commit to this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it takes. I mean, sometimes you just gotta kind of wing yourself off, and that's what's cool about um, those like Beyond Meat and Impossible Burgers is,
Mm-hmm.
again, they're good transition foods. You just gotta be careful with, how much you intake. In my opinion, just the research I've done,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to sustain that. It's the big thing of having a sustainable and healthy lifestyle is that you can sustain that living. So if you really want to be healthy, the best way, and one thing we're trying to do now that we have this new home is, and I'd love to talk about this if you do it, but we're trying to start to get into like farming ourselves. So like, if we're buying tomatoes, we're buying peppers, and a lot of people don't know, but because those have seeds in them, we usually throw away the seeds, right? And the stems and all that. But some of these, in fact, I would probably say 95% of the vegetables and fruits that we eat, you can actually reuse the stems and the seeds that are in them and replant it yourself. Now, again, you're not going to get food next week, so you still have to go shopping. But, ultimately you can get to a point to where you can use your backyard as a place where you can house, even if it's, 1% of the vegetables and fruits that you eat, on a monthly basis for your family. It could save you a lot of money in the long run. It doesn't cost you anything because you're going to throw away those seeds anyway. So you might as well repurpose them, instead of having a pool in your backyard, make a little bit of room for some food because we kind of need it.
Right.
So do you do any of that?
Cool.
Do you reform or anything?
Yeah. We just started this summer with a small garden box. So cucumbers and, tomatoes, strawberries, and we actually planted some moringa trees. I don't know if you know what moringa is, but we have a whole bunch. If you want one, I can give you a tree. They're superfood, so they actually are high in protein and a whole bunch of antioxidants, and you can put the leaves in soups, or you can just eat them, put them in your salad, and they're really great. Some things, I planted that didn't take off, which I'm looking more into, is lettuce and just things that are a little bit harder to grow in the heat. But cucumbers are ginormous. Like, we have ginormous cucumbers. They're crazy. So
yeah, I love me a cucumber, and I wasn't a big fan until I started juicing, and then because I put cucumbers in my juice, I would have like celery, cucumber, apple, ginger, and I would just kind of have that if I'm like fasting or if I'm doing some juice. And then I kind of started it's weird that transitioning, I started juicing with cucumbers, and prior to this I hated cucumbers. I couldn't stand them. I still can't handle pickles, and it's in the pickle family. I'm just not a fan. But I tried cucumbers, couldn't do it. I started juicing with it. And then after like a few weeks, that's all it took, maybe like 4 or 5 weeks, I started kind of developing almost like this urge. Like when I wanted a salad, I would normally not have cucumbers in it, but then I tried to put cucumbers in it. And I did, and I was like, oh, this tastes good. And then all of a sudden, my body almost like instinctually, because I was juicing with cucumbers, craved cucumbers. So then I wanted it. It's very strange. I've never experienced that before, and it was very interesting. So now I love cucumbers.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah,
something similar happened with potatoes. I used to hate sweet potatoes.
What?
And now,
who are you?
I know, right? Like, I used to hate them, and then I was like, I just read about doing salads with sweet potatoes and then like baking them, and so that's one of my favorite, kale salad with some sweet potatoes. Now that's my go-to.
Ooh. So you
good.
do you bake it so it's smushy or almost like fried? The sweet potato?
I cut them into like little cubes, and then I put some like water or olive oil, salt and pepper, bake it just nice and like crispy, and then I make kale salad with some tahini and lemon dressing with oh my gosh, almonds, berries, and
tons of goodies.
I forget what else I put in. Yeah, just so much stuff.
Oh my god, it sounds good. Well, it's almost like kind of gives you almost like the texture of like having chicken in your salad, but with sweet potatoes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, if someone's looking to transition from chicken to not chicken, sweet potato might not be the best transition because it doesn't taste like it, but it sounds fantastic what you're describing. So I might have to take you up on that. I might have to have the wife cook that for sure.
Yes, I'll send you the recipe.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
And I'll even post it too on this podcast so that way people can go follow you on it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you've been a vegan for over 3 years. That's exciting. And then, so tell me a little bit about Orlando Farm Rescue, because that I've noticed too. Is that your?
Yeah. So I started that. I was at this place where, I've been working online. I switched to working online when I moved to Florida,
Hmm.
and I really missed working with animals, and I wanted to do something more than, I had a blog where I was just sharing recipes, which was awesome, but I missed that connection of like helping an animal heal and go to a better location. And um, when I was a vet tech, I would save all the ones that they were going to euthanize. That's how I have my dog Weeble. He was a puppy that came in, and he has 3 legs and he's super cute.
Oh my
But
God.
so I was doing that before. So I thought, like, hey, why don't I just start a 501c3 nonprofit and do something like just, save animals if I can, or help other rescues. And eventually the goal is to actually have a farm in Orlando that's a sanctuary. Um, and so I started it. And so started with rabbits because it was something that I could do in my house, where I could, save a rabbit or two and
Hmm.
make them better and then rehome them. And so it's kind of grown from there, which has been really cool. All sorts of different animals, mostly pigs. We've helped out a lot of pigs, working with other sanctuaries. And um,
And how long
pigs.
ago was this that you started Orlando Farm Rescue?
It was 2 years ago that
Wow.
we started, but it's really this year that really has kicked off. With we have a lot of different fosters and different volunteers that help, so it's been really fun.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to the
Yeah.
volunteers.
Yes, our volunteers
Yeah.
and our board members. And honestly, like, it's been crazy because we just put up a Facebook page and asked for donations, and our supporters are amazing. Like we couldn't do it without them, and it's just been overwhelmingly like just like so much gratitude. It's been amazing.
That's crazy. Well, no, congrats, for even thinking about doing something like that. People go their whole lives without, worrying about any other humans, let alone animals. So kudos to you and the team. And have you guys been able to kind of expand a little bit from where you're at 2 years ago? Or are you kind of still starting small and are you looking like growing to like a big sanctuary somewhere in Orlando? Do you have a spot in mind that would make sense? Or
Yeah, eventually we would like to. We do have a couple places in mind right now with kind of the market and things like that. To get
sure.
5 acres in Orlando has in a safe location, because that was another thing is we
Yeah.
got some land, but it's in the hood and we don't want
Right.
that.
Yeah, you can get a nice cheap place in Paramore, but you don't want to
Yeah.
you don't want to do that noise. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So we're hoping to do more this coming year, as far as big fundraisers and not just all online things. So actually having something in person, depending on COVID and all of
Sure.
that.
No, totally. And where can people go to support the sanctuary and all that?
Yeah, if you go to on Instagram, it's at Orlando Farm Rescue, and then our website's Orlando Farm Rescue.
OrlandoFarmRescue.com?
Or .org.
Oh,
Either
.org.
or.
Yeah, sorry, you broke up there for a bit. There you go. She's back.
I'm back.
Okay, cool. OrlandoFarmRescue.org.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, what a cool page, what a cool site. And again, just hats off, applause. Anytime someone could do something like that, it's
Oh,
very special. So congrats.
thanks.
Um,
Thank you.
Absolutely. And then how is everything affecting, you do this full time pretty much? Or do you have
No, this is just part time.
Part time? Okay. So
Yeah.
has that affected COVID at all, or?
Yeah, when COVID first happened, just with our volunteers and getting pets rehomed was very difficult. We got a big surge of people getting rid of pets, just because they were scared or thought their pets could give them COVID. And so
Sure.
that got a little crazy. We work with a lot of other sanctuaries, like micro sanctuaries, Live Freely Sanctuary. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they're on the East Coast, and we've we were to do a lot together, I would say. But yeah, definitely, we saw donations go down. We saw just more people trying to get rid of pets and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's definitely, and for people that are listening that don't know, so COVID is a virus that's been going on for a few months now. In case people weren't following that. In case you were under a rock or something. So, but that is interesting. I wanted to get your opinion, even though, I know you're not an expert, nor am I, but it's always fun to talk about, because conspiracy theories and spreading false information is the trend now. But I think it is interesting how, COVID has always been kind of like looked at it this, massive pandemic, and it, definitely there's a lot of things you could read about it, but I think we all could agree that any virus, whether it's COVID or SARS or anything, a lot of it comes from, how we're either consuming meats and animals or how we're maintaining our food, because typically, unless it's airborne, and it starts in airborne, which most viruses can be traced to not necessarily being airborne, which is super interesting. And that's a rabbit hole that I've gone down before, where, you look at every single virus and you think just a virus pops out of nowhere and floats in the air. One person gets it and then it multiplies. Usually that's not the case. Typically it's interspecial. Is that the word? And, it could go back and forth between different species, and you never know that something's going to go down until it's too late. And that's what happened with SARS. And, studies say that's what happened with COVID, or it came from a lab and was sent to us. Either way, most likely the odds are it came from an animal. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on like factory farming, because you are running a farm. It's got to irk you a little bit the way animals are being treated for our consumption. I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, factory farming, like, I don't even know where to get started on this, but I mean, it's just so disgusting how they're processed. They're not treated as individuals, and it's a dirty environment. They fill them up with antibiotics, and now there's different names where it's not an antibiotic, it's not labeled an antibiotic, but it essentially is an antibiotic, and pumping them full of that just so they don't get sick until they go to slaughter. And they go to slaughter as soon as they can. Living conditions are filthy. I mean, they're in their own poop, and it's just disgusting. So it's like, no wonder we're seeing viruses like mad cow disease, all of these different viruses and diseases coming out of such a disgusting place. And a lot of people think, well, I buy free range, and I buy from my local farm down the street. And it's like, at the same time, like, yes, like if they're free range, honestly, it is better in most cases. They're not sitting in a very, very small space, like a jail where they can't move, like
with like 10 chickens on top of them.
Yeah. And free range chickens are in a barn that's so, like, they're stacked on top of each other. They can't perch, which is essential for a chicken to like perch on a little perch and have dust baths. And so it's better than them being in a piece of, like, a cage that is the size of a piece of paper, and 8x11 piece of paper. Yeah, it's better, but
because that happens.
Yeah,
that happens.
And it was for my vet tech internship, we had to do work on a local dairy farm, and it was surprising to me, like from the outside, seems like they treat their animals pretty well, better than a factory farm, but they're still just a number. They're still being treated like, just like, smacked around, or, they put the machines on those to get the milk out, and they have a lot of the things doing there was all these cows had infections, and
Oof.
they would rip the babies away from their moms into these little ooze, and it was it was like, oh, this is normal, this is okay. And just because someone says it's okay doesn't make it okay.
Right. Well,
So,
and I think we're so used to, there's one thing that's for sure in this world, and that's change. Right? That's the one thing that we know of all certainty. We don't know if we're alone on this universe. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know anything. We just know the one thing is change. Things are always going to change, and I think we're so scared of change, and we can't admit that, 200 years ago it was not okay to have slaves. Like it took us a long time to figure that one out. But now we're at this very important moment in our history to where we can, and it's starting to get there, but how we've been eating for the past 100 years, and all this processed food, it's just not good for us. And I think we were fed this, like, even as kids, I mean, we're about the same age. I'm a little bit older, but as kids, the food pyramid was like this thing that we thought was, that's how you're going to live the rest of your life. This is what you eat. Milk is good for you. Chicken, steak, like this is all good for you. But now we're starting to realize that that's not the case. Like science has proven that it's actually healthier, by not eating that stuff.
yeah.
And I think it scares us. I think it scares us humans, and we're just afraid of that change. Very similar to a lot of things where we just can't admit that it's the wrong way, and we're willing to do whatever we can, including factory farming, to keep that change. It's scary.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's hard for people too to think that what they're doing, it's easy to get defensive and be like,
Sure.
this isn't really harming, or what's one cow, and but it's like, if you do a little bit and you just say, okay, like, I acknowledge that this is, even if you're eating meat and you're like, you know what, at least I'm going to give thanks for this animal's life, that's a lot. And just being like, it doesn't matter. And
Exactly.
so I think those baby steps help us change. And
and that's a good point. I mean, I even brought the reason I bring up slavery, which sounds kind of morbid to the listeners, are like, what the fuck? Why do you go there? Well, because in my opinion, I think that we're at a moment now where I've really kind of turned a leaf myself, where I eat the way I do for my health, but I also am starting to understand that we're getting so smart. Like we're realizing that insects and fish and all these things have different neurons in their brain that we didn't even know existed, where they physically, there's science has proven that they have memory, they can have memory loss, they can remember where certain things are, they feel that they have family, they have a connection to people. So for me, I like on a different wavelength, I look at like we're kind of enslaving these animals, and could we get away with eating less meat and maybe feel a little bit better ourselves? Yeah, I think so. But I think maybe it needs to be more treated as, like you said, I kind of like what you said there, where if you're more thankful, like, I remember when I was a kid, filet mignon was like the creme de la creme. Like it was only available in like 10% of restaurants. And, there's like restaurants like Fleming's and Outback and all, they have filet mignon, but it's like $50 for a meal. But now it's like you can get surf and turf and it's like $35 and it has filet mignon, and you're like, wait, what happened? And the reason is because we have so much factory farming that's going on. We think we have to keep up with this demand that, factory farming, all these companies are just pumping out food to us left and right, so we can just stuff our fat faces with meat. And all we have to do is we just have to be like, listen, man, just give me a little less. Because if we can all do a little less, then maybe eventually companies would be like, oh, wait a minute, the country's not eating as much meat, so maybe we don't have to like treat these cows the way we do, because we don't need to breed cows as much anymore because America's not eating as much food. But
and we're already seeing that, which is a good sign of hope. I mean, if you look at the milk industry, because
Oh,
they're leading. And we have all these different milks ago. We didn't have hemp milk, almond milk, so like,
yeah.
there's so many milks, and a lot of these farms are having to shut down because they don't have the demand. And there's the one sense of like, oh yeah, these farmers are losing their jobs, but it's the same thing. Like, you got to pivot, you have to change. And I'm sure, like you were talking about the slave owners, when they said, hey, no more slaves, I'm sure it was hard for them too. But like,
I'm sure they're
it
like, well,
doesn't make it okay.
what am I gonna do now?
Right.
Who's gonna clean my kitchen now? And
Right.
you figured it out, didn't you? We
Yeah.
got through it. And this is really not that big of a deal versus that, but we got over that relatively quick. I mean, Abe Lincoln did what he had to do, and a few years later, I mean, not everyone gets it. I mean, there's still some whacks out there, but more often than not, we kind of got the picture and got the hint. So I think you're right. We're starting to get there, which is great. And it's super cool to kind of see all these companies. Like, you look at Tyson, that's starting to develop plant-based meats, and so that's kind of cool. But I'm also a little bit worried because when I was a kid and McDonald's first came out, they actually used a real beef.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was real beef, and it was the best beef on the market. They took pride in it, and then they figured out this system to where they can make meals faster. And now the meat's 99 cents for a burger. So because they've skipped so many steps and they've produced so much, that they're making shortcuts to make this thing faster. So that's what kind of worries me a little bit about the vegan industry is it's going to hit this bubble, and then it's going to get to a point to where a lot of these companies are going to take over these multi-million-dollar companies like they did with the milk industry and with the food industry, and throw some money from the FDA, and the next thing you know, we got a new food pyramid, and they're like, hey, you should be eating Beyond Meat 10 times a day, and you should be eating and then it's like, guys, we're doing it again. So
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like, everything in moderation. Like, you don't want to eat like so much soy that you're just like, not that soy's bad, but just like, we have to learn to become more, I don't know, just like, just not like eating because it's just
fat.
convenient,
We
and
can't be
just
fat.
like, yeah, we can't be fat. We can't like just like be like, all I can, like, I went to see some of my family in Michigan, and they're not vegan, and I got, like, God bless them, I love them so much, but health is not a priority to them. It's like, what tastes good, what can I eat, like, what makes me feel happy, and
Sure.
that like what's the word, like, gluttonous, is that the word?
Yeah, gluttonous. Yeah, gluttony is a
Gluttonous.
sin. We forget that.
Yeah. Right. And it's like,
Yeah,
like, believe me, I like enjoying things, but
sure.
at the same time, it's like we don't have to like indulge that much. Like, we can.
Well,
we can be
when I
okay.
was and I was having this convo with my family, because my family's the same way. They're all Italian, so they're all bigger, and I used to be way back in the day when I was a
Really?
kid. But oh yeah. I might post. I've never posted a picture of me way back in the day. I deleted all of them on Facebook because it was embarrassing. So maybe one day I'll do, like, 15 years later, this is what I look like. But sports got me in shape in high school. But prior to that, I was a chunky little Italian kid. It's not okay. But I had a conversation with I had two of my family members. It was their birthday, and we went to an Italian restaurant up the street. Authentic, like, they not only do they bring out the food, but they'll bring out garlic knots with olive oil, and they'll put oregano and a little bit of red wine in there, and it was just like, you could tell it was like the real deal. And I was like, this is going to be a problem for me, because A, there's no vegan options, but B, I'm about to watch a bunch of people go hard, and it's going to be very difficult for me to watch this because I want to do it. And I was having the convo with them. I was like, I couldn't finish 25% of my plate, because if you go to like Italian restaurants, or if your grandma's Italian, they cook these massive 20-person plates for one person.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they just shove themselves with a bunch of red wine to pass out. So but I kind of use this as an argument when they were busting my chops a little bit for being vegan, because of course I didn't really have anything. But I said, listen, I go, way back in the day, like in the Roman times, just drinking red wine and eating grapes was like only something kings do. And, only the kings were the fat ones, and only, there was something to be. Now, of course, a lot of the other people were slaves. So this is not the message right here, what I'm saying. But my point is, though, that type of gluttony and that type of like indulgence was treated as royalty. Like it was not something everyone should do. And I think to your point, if we learn how to eat a little bit less and appreciate, because I love me a big old Italian meal, but I don't do it all the time. But when I do it, it's like I prepare myself for it. I eat a little bit less food, right? Like for breakfast, lunch, and that way I kind of prepare myself for dinner, because I'm thinking, all right, if I'm going to consume all this food, I don't want to intake 5,000 calories before I intake another 5,000 calories. So if we kind of think to ourselves and plan out our meals a little bit more and kind of treat it as like, a dessert. And even with desserts, treat dessert like a damn dessert and not have a massive meal. And like what we did, we had a big meal, me and the wife split it, and we have leftovers that we're still chowing down 4 days later. Wow. Just off 2 entrees, 1 entree each. And we ordered a cheesecake, but we got it to go. Now we could have horsed down that cheesecake. We could have. So I haven't had cheesecake in a while and it kills me, but I'm willing to do it because I'll fast like all day and then I'll have my dessert. But that's kind of like that's my treat. Like I might do that and that's my treat, but I'll work out the day before. I'll do nothing but juice for breakfast and lunch. But I think we have to kind of get to understand a little bit more how our body works, that you don't need food all day, every day. Like we're
starving. Taught. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so true. And it's like, you appreciate it more, right? Like you're going to eat that cheesecake. Like, oh my gosh, this is the time I'm going to like, yes, this is awesome. And it's not just looked at,
cheesecake.
Yeah, whatever.
It's just cheesecake. I'll just have it in 2 more days. I'll go to Cheesecake Factory and get 5 more of these things. Like that's how the American mentality works. And we got to get away from that, because, we're the only country that does it. And if we did that a little bit more, I think if we all kind of woke up one day and said, we need to eat a little bit less, we need to take care of our bodies a little bit more. All these companies like Beyond Meat and, kind of companies that are more parallel that maybe think outside the box, maybe companies like Tyson that want to get out of the chicken industry, maybe they'll think of something like, that makes us a little bit more healthier. Maybe they'll realize what that trend is and they'll get out of that and go to that specific trend. That maybe is a better route, because at the end of the day, we're the consumer. We're the ones that tell them what is successful or not. And, the more we cave in to these cats, they're just going to keep pumping out Cheesecake Factory locations, and it's going to be a problem for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's so yummy.
So
but
good.
It's so true. Like we have so much power with what we buy, and we forget that. Like, it's easy to look at these companies and be like, to place blame on them and say, oh, I can't believe they're doing this, but we're paying for it. So it's not them that's doing it, it's us that's doing it. So
And what I love most about that is I've seen a couple of videos that are pretty funny where they'll look at nutritional facts on some certain things and they'll compare it to videos of like consumers complaining that they had, high cholesterol or whatever. And then another dude will look at this nutrition fact and it says it right there. Like, it's not good for you. It's unhealthy. It's salt, it's carbs, it's sugar, and you're eating that. That's why you have high cholesterol. But the person that has high cholesterol is blaming it on the company that made the product. But dude, you're eating it. They print it right on the label. Right. They tell you what's in it. It's just we don't like to. Yeah, like we don't like to educate ourselves on that type of stuff. But it's so weird. And this is our bodies we're talking about. This is not an old Chevy Corvette that you could just break down in 10 years and buy a new one. Like you only get one of these.
Yeah.
And we don't take it as seriously as like our Lamborghinis. Like, what is happening?
Right. Yeah, I know. And I didn't, and you might have like more to talk about because of your health issues. But for me, I didn't really start thinking about my body and my health until a few years ago, like after I went vegan. But then I was if you get sick, remember I got sick just like with a cold or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting older. I need to make sure that I take like my vitamins. And, you just start thinking as you get older, like, oh, this is not going to just be healthy forever. Like I can't just continue to do this and not have any repercussions for it. So
100%. Yeah, and that was a big thing with me. Is that's why I went vegan because of my health. But I always have been kind of health conscious. Especially, I used to be a personal trainer way back in the day. That's what kind of helped get me fit. But yeah, that's when I really started diving in. But more like how I looked, not how I felt. So, and that was just me being like conceited Jersey Shore dude that wanted to look good in a tank top. But I wasn't feeling good though. So I was looking good on the outside, but I definitely wasn't feeling good. And I just thought it was like, because I'm partying or maybe because I'm working too hard. And then right when I like hit my 30s, I'm 35 now. Once I hit my 30s, I was like, when I started having some health problems, I was like, wait a minute, what could be causing this? Because I work out the same. I live in the same city. I have the same friends. I drink the same amount of alcohol. The only thing that's changed in my life is my food. So then once I kind of doing like elimination diet and cutting out certain foods, and it took me about 18 months to figure it out, then I realized that, okay, so what I put in my body is not just fuel for me, but it reacts differently with everybody. I used to have rosacea as a kid. Once I changed up my diet, that dissipated a lot. I have friends that, have tons of great stories where they have a lot of skin conditions that have dissipated once they've switched more pescatarian or vegetarian and just cut out a lot of the food. And there's nothing wrong with meat if you catch it yourself and cook it yourself. But I think we're in this weird circle where whatever they're putting in the food to process it and to maintain its shelf life, I don't even think they know how damaging it is because, unless you study, like, let's say you and me get in a room and you eat nothing but plant-based food and I eat nothing but red meat, unless they study us for 30 years and we eat the same thing every day, there's no proof. No one's ever going to be able to tell. That's the problem with some of these studies is they're short-term studies are not, conclusive because of that. And that's why this shit's still on the shelf. So it's like, you got to weigh out the pros and cons. It's like either catch the meat yourself or let's wait until they figure out how to do this the right way where we're not, like you said, stepping on chickens and treating these cows horribly because that could have long-term effects on them, which of course we intake has long-term effects on us. And that's what happens.
So true.
Yeah, it's almost like, some people don't even, my wife is a good example. If I drop something on the ground, she won't even touch it. Like me, I'm like, forget 5 second, the 5 second rule. If it's 2 minutes, I'll eat that shit. I don't care. I don't mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but if it's on the ground for 5, it's gross. But little do we know, we don't think about this, but there's probably that floor is so clean compared to what these cows go through.
Oh yeah.
Think about not only is the cow born, how the cow is treated, how the cow is butchered, how the cow is cleaned. And then even if it's cleaned gorgeously and perfectly, they package it up, they throw it on a truck. That truck is going across state lines, exhaust, gas. Who knows if it's the right temperature inside the truck? We don't know. We're just guessing, right? It could be 40 degrees, could be 10 degrees. And then it touches 15 people's hands that probably didn't even wash their hands after they went to the restroom. Then it gets to Publix. Then once it's at Publix, then you're hoping that the temperature's right. And all that could happen in 6 weeks. It's just, we don't think about this stuff. And I don't think we want to think about it. And me just saying it grosses me out, actually. So I get why people don't think about it, but it's just so crazy.
Yeah.
We know so much now more than we did 20 years ago,
Yeah, so true. And what I found really interesting too was a lot of our meat isn't even from the US. Like especially like people like getting fast food. I don't eat fast food, but that comes from South America, which is tearing up our forests and all of those endangered species, which was obviously really important to me and those communities. And so that's
a great point.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many crazy effects, and And all we have to do is just eat a little bit less. That's it. And, try to help out as much as we can. Like, with the Rainforest, it's like one of the sponsors of the podcast are some great folks at Rainforest Bowls. And I started really using their products about a year ago. And then they reached out to me, to sponsor the podcast. And I was super, super excited because I don't know if you've ever used coconut bowls or anything, but so they have coconut bowls and they have silverware, utensils, coffee mugs, bamboo straws, and every time a coconut tree gets chopped down, usually the wood cutoffs and like the coconut shells get burned or thrown away in the rainforest. So what they do is they actually take all that shit and then they create utensils and bowls, and then every bowl that's sold, they replant a tree in the rainforest. Wow. So yeah, so but little things like that, I've really started. That's what's funny about the because you talk about health after you went vegan. For me, it was the opposite. It was like health, veganism, and then I started caring about the planet. So you did the reverse. You did the right way. Care about the planet first, and then you.
See, I think you did it the right way because now I'm like, I gotta worry about my health now because I've been eating so much processed food for the last couple of years. So,
yeah, tomato.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what's so crazy is it's a yeah.
I was just saying, I've seen those bowls on your Instagram, and
oh yeah,
I don't know where you post them, and they're so cool looking too. Which
they're awesome. And I ordered like 1 or 2 a month, but just to help out the good cause, and I'll ship it to friends and family and stuff. But I love how I'll order like 10 at a time, and every single bowl is different. It's just it's so cool, and they're again, it's like little things like that I'm starting to realize that even if a small percentage of us kind of do our part to help out in different ways, doesn't necessarily have to be that, but eating less meat or using less plastic, bringing your Yeti cup and filling that up, with your water or at a water fountain if you go to work instead of buying plastic. I mean, all those little things really do make a big difference, but you can't just be a small portion of the population. Like, we have to vastly change how we're doing things. So
true.
Anyway, that was like a long rant, but that was fun. We're already at an hour already, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I feel like we could talk and talk and talk. I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, shout out to where did I get Clean Juice. I don't know if you guys have those in Orlando. So Clean Juice I'm obsessed with. They're not a sponsor, but I like to give them a shout out anyway. But Clean Juice is it's where I get all my juice if I don't make it at home. But they do everything fresh. It's all organic. And they have these dope-ass shirts that you can get rewards. And it says, beats, beats, beats. And then at the bottom, you probably can't see it, but it says, don't kale my vibe.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
So shout out Clean Juice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a very fun topic. And I don't get to talk about it enough, but I've become extremely passionate about it the last like year, 2 years. Just I even plan to do a documentary with my buddy Jason, where there's been a lot of vegan documentaries like What the Health and that new one, what is it, Game Changers, thank you. Yes. That's a great one too.
So good. Did you watch that one?
I did. Really enjoyed it. And sent it to a bunch of my pessimistic carnivore friends too. But yeah, our documentary, because I feel like one thing that we are missing in that world is like ours is going to be name still pending, but it's going to be eating both sides, and it's going to talk about both of us used to be non-vegan advocates, but now not only we vegan advocates, but like our wives, like his wife has her own vegan blog. And she didn't used to be, and now they're raising their kids to be vegan. And, it's the documentary is really going to be about like seeing both sides, and that there's no right or wrong, really. It's just a matter of one side right now is kind of affecting us negatively because we've done it for so long. And if we can kind of like perfect that a little bit more, it's okay to eat meat, but maybe if we make meat, like we do bottled water. If you think of bottled water like a luxury, I mean, you can easily go outside and drink from the hose. It's not the cleanest by any means, But you could. We have drinking water available. Like you could use a Brita filter and you could filter it yourself, but you're paying bottled water for the convenience. And some of these bottles of water are $3 a bottle, right? So it's like, what if we do meat? What if we make meat more of a premium? What if we double the price of it?
Yeah.
You know, but instead, what do, Kayla? We double the price of what? Vegan shit. What?
Yeah, makes no sense.
It's madness. So, you know, they just want to fatten us up and keep fattening us up in America. And it's been working. It's been working.
Yeah, it has been.
But we're going to be changing the world, Kayla.
We are. We got this. Don't kill our vibe.
That's right. Yes, please use that at least one time a week for the rest of your life.
Yes, I will. That's good.
They have another shirt that's great. It says, "Oh, kale, no."
Oh, I like that.
Oh, kale, no.
Yeah. I have a shirt that says, "Kale, yeah, I'm vegan."
Oh, see, that's awesome too. I didn't realize how many vegetable puns are out there, but there's so many.
My gosh. So do you juice a lot?
I do. I actually, I juice. I have a nice little Breville juicer. And I just got that about 2 years ago. I probably do it twice a week. Or if I'm going to go really hardcore for dinner, like when I went to that Italian joint, I juiced the whole day. So I would do like, a green juice in the morning with some celery, green apples, ginger. And then for like lunch, I would do like a beets one, maybe beets, red apples, and carrots. And then, I'll have my dinner would be the Italian food. So I love it. I've seen great results from it, especially because I have Crohn's disease. So it's been extremely beneficial in that, because I don't think people realize how much of a break your intestines need. Because we're so used to, think about it. I'm 35. How old are you?
29.
So you're 29. So for 29 years, from, let's take out breastfeeding. So let's say at year 1. So even for 25 years, let's say, 25 years you have been eating nonstop every 4 or 5 hours. That's madness.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And there's some countries that are lucky enough to get bread for the day. Like, so that's when I started really juicing a lot more, is because I'm helping out. I feel like, at least, that I'm helping consume less food, which I think is important. But then also too, I think it's good for our bodies to give a break. Almost like when you use your phone for too long, you get a headache. Put your phone down for a couple hours, you feel better. It's strange.
Yeah.
So it's almost like taking a break. So I love it. Have you juiced? Or do you?
I used to a lot when I first went vegan, but
Sure.
I haven't done it as much as I would like to. So it's something I want to get back into, is doing it more consistently.
Here's where things get really squirrely. If you want, and I just started this about a week ago, and I'm loving it. So I'll juice like once or twice a week, and then the pulp, typically you throw that away. But for me, I repurpose it. So I'll have the juice, and then I'll save the pulp, and I'll, take half of it. And it sounds gross, but I'll like ball it up, and I'll put it in the freezer, and then I'll add like strawberries and bananas, and I'll make a smoothie like in a couple days with it.
Oh.
So you kind of have like the apple celery flavor, and then I'll add like some other fresh fruits. But I use the pulp though, because pulp really the only reason not to do it is because the fiber, and that's why you juice, is you want to get rid of the fiber and you cleanse your body. But fiber is good for you. You just don't want it all the time. So it's not like the skin of the apple is bad. So I do save that. So there's even like a cool, I forget what the website is, but there's a really cool blog where it talks about how you can make like different types of salsa with it, with the pulp runoff and stuff. It's very interesting. So I've been doing that, and I haven't seen any bad side effects yet. I'll definitely let you know if I do, but like if I end up getting some weird illness, I'll let you know. But I think so far I'm enjoying it though. And I'm using all the food that we have too, which is, instead of throwing away, I always feel so bad when I throw away, just because I'm so bougie that I can't have the skin. Like, I gotta throw it away. So strange.
Awesome.
Yeah, but you should look up if there's a clean juice in Orlando. I think you get a kick out of it.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah. They're expensive, but they save you the time to juice it yourself. So.
Okay, cool.
You were gonna say save what?
Oh, I was gonna say you'll have to send me the website of the salsa.
Yes. Yeah. I'll send it to you. It's hard to kind of fathom at first, but then when you read it, you're like, all right, this should be interesting. Yeah.
Game.
But again,
I'm
those
game.
are one of the things that we talked about, right? You got to keep reusing the seeds, and it's more difficult for sure, but then you end up saving a lot more money, and I think ultimately people will be more happy, and a lot of good benefits.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been so much fun.
Get out of here.
Chatting with you, and we'll have to get together too.
Yes. Once the end of the world stops.
Yeah,
we should. No, but I'd actually love. I'll talk to you offline about this, but when we get this documentary up and running, I'd love to feature Orlando Farm Rescue on there, and maybe we could do some interviews with your volunteers and stuff like that. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and we're always looking for another reason to go to Orlando. We do kind of miss it out there a little bit, so. But yeah, we'll get together. We'll do some more collab stuff because this was fun and it was good talking with you. And no, thank you for coming on. I'm always looking for good people to share some interest and geek out with me. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
And lastly, before I let you go, so we got Orlando Farm Rescue. We know the Instagram there. What's your personal Instagram? Do you have a website or blog? How can people find you if they want to know more about Kayla Wall?
Yeah, you can just check me out on Instagram at Kayla Jo Wall. And
Kayla Jo
simple.
Wall. Cool.
Kayla Jo
and
Wall.
I left the links and the tags right over there. So definitely go follow Kayla. And again, Kayla, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate you talking for over an hour and 10 minutes. You are a talker, young lady.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me on. You're so fun.
I appreciate
love this
it.
podcast and everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. We'll do it again, Kayla. Appreciate you.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.